Here's something else I was absolutely delighted about. The Ukrainian president Zelensky, I believe is his name, was told by media reports that Putin was going to attack on Wednesday, meaning today when this is airing.
Mm-hmm.
He went forward and said this. Then those reports were found to be inaccurate, and he said, "Okay, I'm told this being no longer the case." That was reported as he said he heard this, and now he backtracked or he takes back his story. And what was beautiful on social media, which is still increasingly how people get their news. It's not as much as sitting home watching the nightly news or CNN or Fox, but how all these journalists were called out. Like, wait a minute, you lied to him. He learned the truth. He didn't walk back anything.
Yeah.
This was your first, you lied to him about what was happening, and then you lied about what he said, and now you're lying about his reaction. So to see these machinations gives me a lot of hope, because if this had been 20 years ago, it would have been a hell of a lot easier to get those boots on the ground in Ukraine and to have everyone in America be like, we can't let Putin's another. All of a sudden, they'd remember Stalin. All of a sudden, they'd remember to hate him. Oh, yeah, Stalin, that guy, he was bad, right? And it would be easy to whip people up. It's not working this time, in my opinion.
Well, it's very interesting. I think this is a point that you've made a lot over the probably since like around 2016. I've heard you make this point several times that I think is a really underappreciated point, because everyone's always talking about how polarized the country is and what an obvious negative thing that is. Like, well, it's so bad because the country's at each other's guts, and there certainly are elements of it that are not good. You know, like there are things where when people's personal lives are like so obsessed with politics, you hear this thing like families not talking to each other over politics, and all this stuff is like so weird and bizarre. And it's not great because it ends up making people hyper focus on politics and blindly get behind their guy because he's the only one fighting against the other side. Like there, but you made the point that usually when the worst policies happen, it's because the people are united and galvanized around one leader. And when you live in this type of like, you know, like white hot culture war environment, it's virtually impossible for any major policy to get, you know, kind of like a broad support between the left and right half of America. And a major policy is a new war. And we have not had a new one since 2016, and there have been pushes for them. There was a push for a war in Venezuela. There was a push for a war in Iran. There's been a push for a war in Ukraine now, and none of them have been able to pull it off.